So, I'm sure most of you have heard about the Nashville school shooting that took place recently. A 28-year-old transgender person shot up a school, killing children as young as 9 years old. Whenever something tragic like this happens, it really disgusts me when people use the event to push their narrative. If the perpetrator was a gamer, then clearly violent video games are to blame. If they were a right-winger, then clearly it's Donald Trump's fault. In this case, due to the shooter being transgender, a lot of right-wingers will scramble to use this to push their agenda. If there is genuinely a connection between these things and the shooter's motivation, then that conversation can be had. Until there's evidence to prove otherwise, we shouldn't assume that this person being transgender had anything to do with their motivation for shooting. While I find that opportunism disgusting and callous, David Pakman took it to a whole new level. He tweeted, within a day of the shooting, "Very surprising that there would be a mass shooting at a Christian school. Given that lack of prayer is often blamed for these horrible events, is it possible they weren't praying enough or correctly despite being a Christian school?" I'm not going to pretend I didn't know what he was trying to say. It's just in terrible taste. This is directed at politicians who only offer thoughts and prayers instead of gun control laws, which Pakman advocates for. This would make for a good, edgy joke that you whisper among friends, not to be shouted out on Twitter where anyone, including the victims' families, can see it. It's really insensitive. And even if you are saying it sarcastically, you are criticizing the children. Obviously, he's not blaming the children, but this is a sensitive topic, and he should have chosen his words more carefully, out of respect for the victims and their families. But no, Pakman had an agenda to push, and that's paramount. He cravenly later deleted the tweet, citing, "Alright, too many anti-Semitic attacks and threats to my family. I've deleted the tweet." And there was indeed a lot of backlash to the tweet. Under any one of his more recent tweets, the comments are flooded with people reposting his callous tweet. After the backlash became so great that he could no longer ignore it, he released a follow-up video.
One other note about this. I posted a tweet yesterday, sort of calling out the fact that despite continuing to ask for thoughts and prayers and saying that part of the problem we have is God has been taken out of school, I pointed out this shooting happened at a Christian school.
He conveniently doesn't display the tweet and makes it sound a lot more innocuous than it actually was.
This was either deliberately or accidentally misinterpreted by some as me blaming the kids who were shot. And of course, I would never do that.
That's completely true. Some people are misinterpreting his tweet. It was a tactless and stupid tweet, but I think people see this as an opportunity to really villainize someone that they don't like. Do I think David Pakman is so evil that he would actually blame the children in this scenario? Of course not.
Unfortunately, I took that tweet down because of the number of threats that came in, not only against me, but against members of my family, people finding my family's contact information and going after them.
That's horrible. As stupid as his wording was, I don't think he deserves that kind of threat.
So I did delete the tweet. The point I was making, of course, was that Republicans who offer nothing other than prayers are unwilling to implement any of the policies I just mentioned and continue saying the problem isn't guns. Clearly, this was not an issue of that, given that it was a Christian school.
Completely idiotic straw man. Who thinks thoughts and prayers will literally make you immune from violence? I think this is partly why his tweet is being misconstrued so much. It's so incoherent and illogical that it's easy to misinterpret. That and sarcasm doesn't translate so well over text. People began contacting David Pakman's advertisers in order to cancel him. He points out the hypocrisy of the right in decrying cancel culture, but are now engaging in it. But why is Pakman worried? Because cancel culture isn't real, after all.
The anti-cancel culture crowd will often insist people's careers are being unfairly destroyed at the drop of a tweet, so to speak, on a whim because they said something not politically correct or not in line with the current orthodoxy or whatever the issue might be. This just rarely happens. I mean, that's the reality.
Well, that aged like milk.